Hello again from Metro Manila, the Philippines, Southeastern Asia. I'm going to speak about another rather serious topic regarding schools, not just here in the Philippines, but in the world generally. There's a so-called concept as change resistance, to translate directly the Finnish term muutosvastarinta, in other words, resistance to change. In every country's schools and in every country's educational system, whether it be the public one or the private one, there are a significant number of individuals, teachers and other faculty members, and even students, and of course their family members, who do not wish to change particular schools or even the overall national or federal or provincial or state or regional educational system, because they believe that the current system is either so good that it cannot be improved or good enough for us not to have to spend or waste time on efforts, possibly even futile efforts, to improve it, or that while there are problems, even significant problems, we do less harm by letting it remain as it is, or letting it change as it were by itself, than by trying to fix problems and possibly end up causing even bigger problems, or anyway so big problems that the costs of trying to reform the system would outweigh the benefits. And this has such disturbing phenomena as putting down faculty members, whether teachers or other ones, who genuinely feel concerned about schools, even pray for them and for fellow teachers or teachers and students and so forth, as finding faults with the system, even if they proposed sincere and concrete, even intelligent alternatives to the current system. There is a difference between genuine concern for the schools and for their people, which then makes people constructively criticize the schools. So not just list the things that should be improved, but also list or at least suggest ways to improve the schools. And between finding fault, which means only focusing on the things that are wrong without proposing any concrete solutions to fix those problems. And I honestly disagree and respectfully disagree with those people, educators and others alike, who believe that the faculty members or students who don't like their school systems should just leave. Of course, that is the simplest way out. However, I would propose respectfully an alternative. The alternative would be to stay there, to prayerfully and constructively asking God for help and resilience and the wisdom to do it in ways that glorify Him. Stay there and improve the systems, school systems, from the inside. Often it will take at least years. In the worst case scenario, it can take decades to fundamentally change the school systems, especially if there are faculty members who have been there for decades and who are unwilling to change themselves or to change the schools, and who react notably sensitively to any criticism, however kind and polite and constructive or even righteous criticism of the school systems, as finding faults, and who basically want fellow faculty members to tell them what they like to hear, even if that meant keeping silent about major problems of the school systems, whether they involve frequently and inconveniently changing schedules that are only announced to the faculty members concerned on the mornings of the days when they take place, even though at least one fellow faculty member would know about them the previous afternoon or evening. And then these faculty members have to either hurry to send group messages, whether text messages or emails or Facebook messages to the students concerned, or just have to then hope that the students will come there at some point during the school day, and then they can tell of these last minute changes to the lesson schedules or lecture schedules, classroom schedules, locations, and so forth. Where teachers who have prepared well and conscientiously and responsibly lessons have to wander from one schoolroom to another, in the worst case scenario, from one school building to another to find an empty classroom. In the worst case scenario, they may have to use a cafeteria or a library or some other common, usually non-teaching space to give those lessons, or then reschedule the lessons for some other school day. This all shows that there are organizational problems with the schools. Is it fault finding to raise these problems? No, if you propose concrete solutions. In my opinion, there should be, once each semester or study period, as it's called now in countries like Finland, once it starts and we get through the first, let's say, 1, 2, 3 weeks, there should be as few changes as possible. From then on until, if possible, the end of the school year or end of the semester or end of the study period to these classrooms and lesson schedules. Because at least it does not benefit any single responsible, dedicated teacher or responsible, dedicated student to have to go from one classroom to another, from one school building to another, to study the same subject, because either those faculty members who should know where the lessons take place have not updated the lists of the classrooms and subjects and lesson or lecture times, or they are not reachable. They don't happen to be on that campus or even elsewhere at that school. This is unfair, and this needs to change. Reforming the school systems, therefore, is from time to time necessary if we want to have healthy and healthily developing educational systems. This doesn't mean that we should change everything, no, nor does it mean, of course, that we should keep everything as it is. Changing times require changes. Well, for example, the increasing use of mobile devices should encourage the teachers and even non-teaching faculty members alike, not just the students, to look for different ways, healthily creative and yet reasonably intelligent ways to reform the learning environments, to change the structures of lessons, to give some lessons or parts of lessons outside the typical classrooms as long as it is logistically reasonable, and as long as, for example, such mobile devices as cell phones and then tablets and laptops and possibly even desk computers or possibly even flip charts or whiteboards can be used there in some form. And as long as there isn't too much background noise to make normal speech, whether in teaching or in recital or answering questions, notably disturbed, so that people have to shout to each other to be heard. And then teachers, regardless of what degrees they have, right from those who only have degrees in specific subjects to those who have doctorates in educational sciences, should be humble enough to realize that regardless of their experience, even if they have been teaching for 40, 50, or even 60 years, as some have been teaching, that they should be willing to learn more. They should be willing, humble enough to challenge some deep-seated mindsets that they have had. They should be humble enough to accept polite correction even from their younger colleagues or their students. Of course, the correction should not be, you don't know how to teach, again you got it wrong, you're no good for anything, just go home or just retire. No. But even in the form of a polite question, sir, mom, are you sure this is right? Could you consider another viewpoint, and so forth? This is something that we would need a lot more of. Yet it should come in a way that would not in the least belittle respect for those teachers, even senior teachers like principals or chief operating officers or program chairs, but would simply point out the fact that we are all imperfect, we are all on this path of knowledge, and this side of eternity, none of us will learn everything. Yet we can significantly reduce our amount of own ignorance and the amount of other people's ignorance if we want to patiently and sincerely and determinedly and with a goal-oriented and solution-oriented mind seek to improve ourselves and each other and our school communities. And then, of course, there should be enough leeway, even in those countries that have a national or federal curriculum, to allow schools to specialize in one or more subject groups, whether they be music or technical subjects or mathematical subjects or biological and other natural science subjects or foreign languages or forestry or environmental sciences or even animal husbandry such as horse breeding or caring for horses, or perhaps ethics or religious subjects and so forth, or so-called life skills subjects. And to recognize the fact that schools can teach each other, schools can be model schools for each other. And this, of course, does not mean that the graduates of those so-called model or elite schools are in all cases better than the graduates of more mundane schools. There are exceptions one way and the other. And of course there are exceptions in the quality of teachers and other faculty members and in the quality of students, parents and guardians. But to have this healthy, inquisitive mind, childlike desire to wonder and to learn new things, and to be happy about not just one's personal success, but also about other people's success. So these are my thoughts. You may agree or you may disagree with them, but hopefully they will give some, figuratively speaking, food for thought for you, especially for those of you who are involved in teaching, in curriculum planning, in the educational administrative work, who are studying to become teachers or who are plain students or then parents or guardians of students. Take care and God bless you all this season and beyond.